모든 과목은 다 초등학교 때 60%는 할 수 있어요. 그러나 그 이후에는 스페셜리스트, 전문성을 가진 교육을 시켜줘야 돼요. 그런 것을 잘해서 적성에 맞는 교육을 하는 것. 그것이 창의 인성교육의 근본 목적이고 그렇게 해야만 우리가 좋은 결과를 얻을 수 있습니다. 그런 데 대해서 오늘 이야기를 하겠어요. 누구나 다 관심사가 있고 관심이 있기 때문에 그 관심사를 발전시켜 주시는 거죠. 적성은 맨 나중에 발견이 되는 겁니다. 적성 검사를 하얀 종이에다 놓고 시험지에 해서 이 적성이냐 저 적성이냐 찾기는 너무 간단한 방법이에요. 긴 과정을 통해서 적성을 발견해야 되죠. 그런데 적성을 발견하기 위해서는 어릴 때 어머니의 노력, 어머니 아버지의 노력, 또 선생님의 노력. 그래서 대학 갈 때쯤이면 자기의 적성에 맞는 선택의 과목을 가지고 대학을 가는 거. 그것이 정상입니다. 우리나라에 내가 요새 좋아하는 그 프레이즈의 또 한 중에 하나는 비정상을 정상으로. 그것도 참 좋은 프레이즈 중에 하나예요. 이런 비정상이 많아요. 정상이면 보통 이게 정상이에요. 그러니까 누가 다 적성을 발견해서 거기에 맞게 발전하는 것이 정상입니다. 그러려면 인류 학계병도 없어져야 되고 여러 가지 없어질 게 많죠. 그러면 curiosity and observation이라는 것의 근본적인 그 이유는 무엇인가, 왜 그런가 하면 일단 출생 때부터 호기심을 가지고 태어났어요. 그러면 그 호기심에 관한 그 방향을 길러서 가르쳐주고, 그래서 1살, 2살, 3살, 10살, 16살 정도를 되면 그 적성을 발견하게 된다, 이렇게 보고 있습니다. 그러면 호기심에 대해서 이제 지금 말한 것에 대한 이제 디테일을 더 말씀드립니다. 또 curiosity는 어떻게 알 수 있느냐, 그럼 호기심에 가지고 태어났는지 어린애들이 있는지 없는지 어떻게 알아요? 이렇게 물어보면 이런 증거가 있답니다. 부모님들은 다 아실 거지만 이 아이를 보세요. Look at this, the child. 네모난 상자 이렇게 던져줬어요. 그랬더니 그 가만히 보고 만지작 하더니 그걸 어떻게 하냐면 손바닥에다가 이렇게 놓고 손바닥을 뒤집더니 그다음에 그걸 짚고 기어가는 거예요. 네? 그래서 그걸 그냥 던져버리는 거 그냥 보고 말잖아요. 그걸 가지고 나서 기어가는데 자기의 그 에이드로 쓴단 말이에요. 그래서 이런 하나하나를 부모님들은 observation 할 수 있어야 돼요. 이게 신기한 거거든요. 보통 일이 아니라. 그래서 여기 또 play, badminton. 3살 먹은 애는 이제 장난감 다 버려놓고 너 보고 치워라 그러는 게 아니고, 또 어머니가 다 맡아서 치우는 게 아니고 같이 치워요. 장난감을 통에 넣고 같이 치우고 같이 클리어해서 this is clean now. 그런 거. 그러면 협동심을 가르쳐주는 겁니다. 이미 교육은 시작된 거예요. 그럼 배드민턴 하나 가르쳐주면서 치는 거에도 얼마나 많은 인지의 능력이 필요합니까? 우선 distance, 이거 거리를 봐야 되죠. 그 다음에 스피드 봐야 되죠. 또 앵글 봐야 되죠. 이 움직이면서 cognitive, 인식을 해야 될 점이 많잖아요. 간단한 운동에서도. 그래서 저는 이 산중을 보면서 여기서 아이들이 막 뛰어놀고 자연을 공부하면 얼마나 많은 것을 즐기면서 배우면서 발휘할 수 있을까. 그래서 저는 단순히 여기 초대받아 왔지만 이게 너무나 귀하게 보이는 거예요. 오자마자. 우리는 흔히 부모들이 이 애들을 뭐 하나 봐. 야, 지저분하게 만들어. 넌 뭐 하고 있어? 그래, 좀 불편한 아이들의 행동을 불편하게 생각하면서 오브저베이션 하는 거는 네거티브예요. 그렇게 하면 안 되고, 아이들을 볼 때, 야, 자기네 마음이 어려워져야 돼요. 애들 제가 뭐를 보고 있지? 아, 이거 보고 있지? 모든 게 다 걔 눈에서 볼 수 있는 부모가 자격 있는 부모라고 생각해요. 그래요. 그래서, so aim of parental observation should be to help child's own efforts to discover the world. 애기들이 힘이 없으니까 help them to find more. 그러려면 부모님들이 무관해도 안 되고 어떤 자료가 없어도 안 되고 자료도 제공해야 되고 환경도 제공해야 되고 그런 제공하는 것이 부모님들의 임무죠. 한국 어머니들은 이거 잘 못해요. 애들이 하면 어머니들뿐이 아니라 내가 와서 느낀 것은 21번 쉬고 말하고 21번 쉬고 액션 했으면 좋겠어요. 그러니까 막 다발총까지 금방 그 액션과 생각과 액션 사이에 시간이 없어요. 시간 간격이 있어야 그 다음에 생각할 여유를 가질 수 있는 겁니다. 여기 1살 때 꽃이 예쁘다 이렇게 보여줬어요. 그랬더니 2살 때는 이렇게 그냥 걸어 다니면서 꽃 냄새 맡고 자기 자신이 이제 찾는 거예요. 꽃을 앞에 놓으면 향기 또 뭐 가시가 있는지 그런 거 보는 거예요. 그래서 키워주면 키워주는 대로 이제 하죠. 자기가 교육을 시키고자 하는 대상과 함께 행동하는 거, 함께 시간을 보내주는 거, 그것도 참 중요한 조건의 하나죠. 네, affectionate and realistic conversation. 사랑의 대화를 해야 돼요. 내가 못했으니까 너라도 잘해봐라. 그거는 anxiety conversation이에요. 너는 해야 되잖아. 나는 못했으니까. No. That's anxiety conversation. It's very good for you. 이렇게 하면 참 좋겠다. 너는 사회에 나가서 또 이렇게 뭐 성공도 하고 이렇게 시집도 잘 가고 뭐 상가도 잘 가고 좋겠잖아. 저기 뭐 과학자도 되고 이렇게. 그러면서 사랑의 대화를 엮어가는 것이 또 부모의 그 책임이고 그 아이의 너무 좋은 그런 그 태도, attitude입니다. 그 다음에 positive thinking, of course, consistency. positive thinking and consistency. 우리나라 사람들이 잘 못하는 거. 그러니까 언제든지 positive thinking을 하고 있는가 내가 negative thinking을 해서 교육을 하려고 그러는가를 자기가 생각해야 되고 그 다음에 consistency. 각 집안마다 교육 방법이 틀리지만 틀리면 틀린 대로 그것이 consistency 영속적으로 똑같아야 된단 말이죠. 막 잘못해서 화를 냈다면 그 다음에 잘못해도 그렇게 화를 내는 게 좋다고 말이죠. 말하자면 화를 내서 안 되지만 그렇지만 그리고 어떨 때는 똑같은 잘못을 해도 어떨 때는 뭐 칭찬한다든가 태도를 달리 변덕을 부리지 말라는 말이죠. 태도는 특히 어린아이들에 대하는 태도는 항상 똑같아야 돼요. Good example is 선생님이 잘못해서 선생님이 뭐라 그랬어요. 그래서 학교 선생님을 만일 blame하면 그 선생님 가서 왜 우리한테 이랬습니까? 그거는 네거티브 attitude예요. 선생님이 그러면 네가 좀 더 잘했으면 됐지 않을까? 이렇게 포지티브하게 선생님을 옹호해야 된다고요. 그래야 그 아이가 선생님을 존중하고 배울 것을 배우죠. 근데 선생님이 그래서 그 학부형의 관계를 잘 하는 것이 또한 현명한 부모님의 태도. 예. 결국은 이 커뮤니케이션이라는 문제인데, it's communication. 커뮤니케이션을 잘 해야 돼요. 그러니까 그건 말만 하는 것이 커뮤니케이션 아니죠. 제스처, 댄스, 스마일링 다 커뮤니케이션이에요. 커뮤니케이션을 잘해서 그 아이가 포지티브 띵킹을 가지고 우리 엄마 아빠는 이렇게 언제든지 나는 잘못하면 야단을 맞고 잘하면 칭찬을 받는다. 그런 컨시스턴스도 유지하면서 키우면 참 좋다고 생각해요. 그래서 그 사랑 담긴 대화에는 why it is important. confidence. 사랑을 담긴 대화에는 아이들이 confidence가 자란 security. 예, 어린아이들의 안전감이 자라요. 안전감이. 그리고 또 그 활기찬 에너지. 자라는 아이들이니까 그때그때 에너지를 먹어야 살잖아요. 그래야지 크리에이티브 띵킹도 할 수 있죠. 그 에너지의 근원이 뭐예요? 사랑의 대화예요. 여러분들 친구가 막 칭찬해주면서 이렇게 좋은 말로 잠깐 격려해주면서 그러면서 대화를 충고를 해도 사랑 섞인 그 충고를 해주면 뭐 신나잖아요. 그 어린아이들은 그게 너무나 중요한 거죠. 센시티브한 거죠. 6-year-old가 6살 먹은 아이가 우리 그 집에 와서 애플을 따요. 애플을 따는데 내가 이제 아이들을 불러서 저렇게 따라고 하면 해서 주면은 따가지고는 자기 하나 갖고 그다음에 This is mine 그런다고. Yes, yours. Can I have one more for my mother? And can I have one more for my father? 일단 자기 것만 아니라 아버지 엄마 것도 챙겨가는 거예요. 그게 어린아이들의 벌써 economic mind죠. 예. 자유방임이 아니에요. 그냥 프리덤을 주면서 가꾸어야죠. 그 다음에 그것으로 해서 discovery, and then when they do discovery activity, they like it, so the aptitude가 생겨요. 적성이 생겨요. 그 다음에 그래서 적성대로 해야 invention, 발명이 할 수 있어요. 발명도 할 수 있죠. 적성에 맞는 것이 발명. 저는 심리학도입니다. 그래서 한 12년 동안을 이렇게 많은 시간을 이렇게 공부하고, 그 다음에 또 일하는 시간은 실습기간이라고 생각하고, 이렇게 또 자연 환경 좋은 이런 데도 오게 되고 참 즐겁게 생각합니다. 감사합니다.
A lot of my examples will come from the species that I study. It's the song sparrow. It is all over North America, but unfortunately nowhere else, and it's one of the great singers in the world. And the word songbird is used loosely to refer to the taxonomic group, the Ocene passerines, and it's about 4,000 species, but it's just one of the many taxa of birds. Let's talk about learning. We know that human language is learned, and it turns out, however, that we are the only primate that learn our communication system. What you see there are two siamangs that are duetting, in fact, and they're singing very loudly, and it's a very complex song, but it's entirely hardwired in the sense that if you isolated them and brought them out of isolation as adults, they would sing this perfectly normal siamang song. Okay, so just to give you some examples here, humans, as I said, are the only primate that learns its communication system. Among the mammals, really, it's only the whales and dolphins, and we know this indirectly. We don't do any laboratory experiments with them, but we know this indirectly. And it now appears that maybe some bats also learn their vocalizations, but all other mammals, cats, dogs, you name it, whatever you can think of, they do not learn their communication system. Among the birds, as I said before, it's the songbirds and also the parrots. There may be a few other exceptions, but it looks like most other birds do not learn their vocalizations. And then all other animals, whatever's left, okay? So we're talking frogs, fish, insects, all other animal groups. They are born with all the information they need to produce their normal species vocalizations, and they do. Okay, some of the features of human language that I'm going to emphasize are these. First off, we have a sensitive period, as was alluded to earlier in Dr. Chung's talk. It basically is up until about the teenage years. And the way we really see this in humans is in second language learning. Second language learning is very easy if you do it when you're young. Yumi Ri is a nice example of this. She is very facile in 2 languages. But try when you're older, when you're usually teenage or older, and it's much harder to learn that second language. We obviously imitate what we hear. That's the explanation for different languages. And even within different languages, there are huge differences in dialects from one region to another. Another notable characteristic is memorization precedes production. What that really means in humans is that little kids understand much more than they can produce. And you see this especially in young infants when they're first learning language, is they can comprehend what you're saying to them much better than they can actually say themselves. And their production, their ability to use language catches up with what they know, with what they've learned. And the final point is there are specialized brain mechanisms that have been studied for years. And one of the ways you see this in humans is that if you have brain damage or a stroke that hits one of these language areas, Wernicke's area or Broca's area, you see deficits in language without any other deficits, without other cognitive deficits. So it's very specific kind of mechanism. It doesn't do a lot of general things. It handles language. And so those are the big 5 parallels that I'm going to draw to animals. And this is Peter Marler, who was a famous pioneer in this area, really started the study of song learning. Well, he's English, but when he came to America is when he really started doing this work. And most of the people, and I'm an exception here, that actually work in the area are descended in some way from his academic groups. And he basically studied the white-crowned sparrow and some other species, but this is the one he did most of his work on, and basically identified these same 5 similarities. There's an early sensitive period. It's much earlier in birds than it is in humans, obviously, because they grow up much faster. They somehow know what species song is. So somewhere in that DNA that Devin was talking about, there's information about what species song should sound like. And in differing degrees, all species, all songbirds show this. They obviously imitate what they hear. One of the first ways you can see this, for example, is just by if you're a good birder and you sort of learn the songs of a particular bird and you go from area to area, you typically will hear these dialects, which are kind of an indicator of learning. So the bird sort of learns the song where he grows up. Memorization precedes production, and their specialized brain mechanisms. I'll talk a little bit further about this. At the top of this diagram here is the time span of a white-crowned sparrow up to adulthood. And adulthood occurs somewhere up here, and they're going to breed right about this point in their life cycle. So they're born 1 year, the next year they begin their adult life and their breeding cycle. The sensitive period for song learning is this very short period from about day 10 to 50. They begin to sing at about 150 days. So here's, again, evidence for what I'm talking about, that memorization precedes production. They learn the song very early. They really don't begin to sing until later. This is sort of the babbling phase in here, and this is when they're really singing good adult song, when they're almost adults. One other thing that's very important to point out are that, again, as I hinted, these birds know what species song is like. Now this is interesting, right? Because they learn their song, and if they don't hear any song, they will sing garbage, basically, when they grow up. They'll sing stuff that is unrecognizable as white-crowned sparrow song or any other kind of song. So they need to hear something, but they know what is theirs and what is not. And so if you give them something like this, which is this is a good white-crowned song, and this is a song sparrow song, it's actually very similar. They know the difference, and they'll reject this, and they'll learn the white-crowned sparrow song. If you give them just the song sparrow song, they'll grow up singing a garbage song again. It'll just look really peculiar and not work for anyone. Now, these are early classic studies, and when you read anything, right, so this is a song sparrow, they won't learn song sparrow song. One of the interesting features, however, of this these studies was they were done with the bird isolated after hatching and exposed to song only by tape recorder. And the young folks in the audience here are not going to recognize that that's a tape recorder. That's what they used to look like. Now everything is computerized. We would digitize a song and play it through a computer. Same idea. They basically, if the bird sees no other live birds and just simply hears the song, white crowns will in fact learn something, and they'll learn good white-crowned sparrow song, but it turns out it's a little different if you have a live bird there. And that is, if you leave out, if you simply take out the social context, if you take out real birds, if you take out real song tutors, the rules of song learning are somewhat different. And again, this just summarizes what I just told you of what was found when they use what are referred to as tape tutors. When you use a live tutor, you get something that's quite different. And what you get is they can in fact learn songs later, not indefinitely, but they can learn, let's say, from day 50 to 100 in white crowns, or maybe even a little later than that. And the other interesting thing is they will learn the song of a heterospecific. And this is a little washed out here, but that's a strawberry finch there. Very different bird. If you look at the song, and we haven't played any songs yet, but you can probably just treat these as fingerprints or something like that. You can see, in fact, that here's a white-crowned sparrow song. Here's a strawberry finch song. Very different song. And here's what a white-crowned who was trained with a live strawberry finch learned. He learned a pretty good copy of this song, and he rejected his own song. Now, if he had got those just tape recorded, if he had not had a live bird, he would reject this, and he would learn that. So, in fact, it's something really powerful that happens when you give them a live bird. And one of the interesting corollaries of that is that it means if you really want to understand learning in these animals, you have to look at the natural context in which they learn. Otherwise, you may be misled. Now, you're not misled entirely, and one of the interesting things that this study tells you is that although they know in their head what white-crowned sparrow song is, and they can in fact identify that when they hear it recorded, if you give them a powerful stimulus, a real live bird, they can in fact sing this very different song of the strawberry finch. And in fact, you can do this for a number of different species. So they can sing this song here, but they normally would not if they just heard it. Okay, so that's what I just said. Okay, just a few words on this so we can move right along. The birdsong, one of the reasons people like me get money from National Science Foundation or National Institute of Health or any funding agency is that birdsong is of special interest because of as a model system for human, not simply for human language learning, but for the neurobiology of learning. And just to give you a summary of that, it is in fact the pioneer model system for studying the neurobiology of learning. And good news for people like me is it's one of the first cases where it was shown that, in fact, these animals would grow new neurons in adulthood. So every year in these songbirds, in the spring, they will grow new neurons in the song system. And this has led to a huge amount of interest in studying the neurobiology of learning. And as I said now, this is a widely used system. And in fact, here is a sort of a summary by sort of the father of the study of the song control system, Fernando Nottebohm. It may well be that our best understanding of how complex skills are acquired and how broken circuits can be fixed will come not from humans or even other primates, but from the way birds learn their song. So that's led to a lot of interest in birdsong. Okay, now let's turn to this question of how the male uses his song. And what I'm going to tell you is going to be specifically about song sparrows, but it's true of the vast majority of songbirds, are very similar to this. And at the same time, I'm going to talk about how the animals learn their song in the natural context. So here we see a song sparrow. And here we see a pair. They live as monogamous pairs. They share their parental care. Again, very typical for the songbirds. This is the male. I know that because he's got some color bands on, and that's one of the things that we do. We put color bands on them when we first capture them, and then we know for the rest of their lives who they are. This is his mate. This is his mate for the year. We did not color band her, and the reason actually we're better about color banding the males than the females, there's two reasons for it. One is only the males sing, females don't, and it's the males we're studying. The other reason is that if you put up a net and play a song, the bird will fly into it. That is to say, the male will fly into it. He'll get mad as hell and fly into the net. The female is much more cautious and clever, and she sort of hangs back and won't do that. So we tend to ban the males and not the females. Okay, what are they saying with their songs? They're saying two things. Again, this is true of almost all songbirds. If they're unmated, they're trying to attract a female. And once they get a female in song sparrows, they stop singing so much, but they still continue to sing because the other function of the song is a very important one, and that other function is to keep other guys out. They're territorials. They have territories that may be 600, 700, 800 meters on diameter. And they're pretty big territories, and they feed on those territories, and they nest on those territories, and they keep the other neighbors out. So song is simply called as a keep-out signal. And people in the past have shown how important it is. If you devocalize a bird, he will lose his territory within a day or two. Other birds act as if he isn't there. He needs the song. He's like posting. So the bird simply sings to let other birds know that he's still there. They also use it to communicate with their neighbors, and I'll talk about how they do that. If the bird does not, in fact, if an intruder does not heed this keep-out signal, in fact comes into the territory, the bird will do various other things. He will do various sorts of displays. This is a bird, and if you can see it, doing a wing wave. This is a bird too, but it's actually a stuffed bird, and we call it a mount. It's a taxidermic mount, but the bird treats the mount as if it were a real bird, and we have a little speaker down here that you can't see that's playing song, and they will attack that bird if in fact he doesn't buzz off. So a lot of people don't think that birds are serious, or that don't fight. They do. And the point of singing here and the point of displaying is to not have to fight, but if in fact the other bird doesn't pay any attention, and the stuffed bird never does pay any attention, then in fact he's going to attack. Okay, and we got another one here. I'll skip this, but there you can see this is a guy that's attacking the mount here. They're fooled by this happily. Okay, turning to song learning. the young bird disperses from his territory at about 30 days of age. Remember, birds grow up fast. And he then looks for a new territory where he's going to breed the next year. And this is actually the area that we study our birds in. This park is called Discovery Park. So basically the bird is going to show up it's going to be born in a particular place or hatched in a particular place. And that's what this little circle indicates. And he's going to leave home at about 30 days, and then he's going to wind up somewhere else. They always disperse at around 30 days, and he gets there somehow. And what we do is to try to figure out not simply how he gets there, but what he does along the way. What does he do in learning songs before he actually sets up his territory? What we do know, and I'll just jump ahead on this one thing, what we do know is that he learns a song between 30 days and the next spring. And then, if we want to track them and see where they're going, we put a little radio tag on them, which is what you're looking at here. And then there's an antenna, and then we walk around and try to track them. And you can find them in this way if you know roughly where they are. If you're within a mile or so, you can find these guys. And then we track them and we see where they go. And here is an example. This is a aerial view of the area in which we work. And what each one of these little squares shows is where a bird was sighted on a particular day. So we would go out on a particular day, find where the bird was, and watch him for a while and note that. And here he is, this bird, the bird with the gold squares, spent a lot of time here and over here. And what he's doing essentially is listening to and perhaps interacting with the adult males there, and he's going to wind up on a territory. This guy looked on two areas. This other bird, MOSS, mostly spent his time down in this area. But each one of those birds is covering the territories of 5 to 10 different adult males. The next year, this is a little hard to see, next year one of these birds, MAJR, wound up here, that was his territory, and the other bird wound up here. So he obviously spent time in these two areas and sort of picked this area. And then this one, this shows you what happens the next year, the next spring, I should say, who they actually learn from. And all those black circles are the territories of the adult males that they learned from. So both of these guys, all the songs that they had, and each one of these birds has 8 to 10 songs, all the songs they had were from the birds that had these territories. And so you can immediately see from this picture what's generally true, which is birds are going to pick out a territory and they're going to learn their songs from the birds who will be their neighbors in their first breeding season. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get songs that they need to interact with the birds that will be their new neighbors. And you haven't heard any songs. I'll play you a few. These are beautiful songs, but short. And they're quite variable. You know, American birdies all know how to recognize a song sparrow, but no one can say how they do it, because their songs the songs vary so much. What is it about that that's so distinctive? And here's one more. Okay. And here's an interesting point. All 5 of those songs I played you were from one bird. They could as well have been from 5 different birds, but individual birds have songs in their repertoire that vary just as much as the songs of different birds. And here's an example of 8 songs of one of these birds. And just to go one step further, I'll play you these songs at half speed. When you hear them at half speed, you can hear a lot more than when they go at full speed. Also, they sound a little bit like whales. So there's a lot going on in that song. And to play one more, this is a very different song. Got a real fast trill in the beginning. There you go. Okay, in this, now that you can recognize a song, Sparrow Song, you can probably look at this and see that our guy that we're focusing on, the subject, these are 5 of his songs. That's not all of his songs, but it's the 5 we're looking at, and we're trying to figure out who he learned from, and that's what we do, is we record everyone, all these birds, and then we sit down and we try to figure out who learned from whom, and you can see pretty clearly that he learned from his post-dispersal neighbor. In other words, he learned not where he was hatched, he learned where he went to. And you can see how similar those songs in the boxes are. Okay, so all 5 of those songs he learned from this particular guy. Now, typically they will learn from 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 neighbors, and the repertoire will be composed all of those songs. And if you look at Dad's songs, you'll see no resemblance to any of these 5 songs. So they do not learn from their dad, which is not what people think. So if you take away one thing from this talk, birds do not learn their songs from their dad, which a lot of people assume to be the case. And there's a good question about why, in fact, that's so. One theory is that Dad, when the kid tries to sing, tells them to shut up. These aren't even song sparrows, and that's not true. But in any case, they do not learn from their dad. Okay, what they are doing is learning songs they're going to use to communicate. I'm going to describe in a very simple way how they do communicate. And they use their shared songs. That's what's really important. So the shared songs here are those 3 songs at the top. I'm not showing you complete repertoires. I'm simply saying that these 2 birds who were neighbors shared those 3 song types, and the rest of their song types were quite different. Now, with a different neighbor, this bird here might share a different set of songs. But these are the set of songs he shares with this guy. And when he talks to this guy, or this guy talks to him, they use the shared songs. And this is how they do it. And this is the same thing you just saw. I'm going to show you a little more. If this guy here wants to sing to his neighbor, wants his neighbor to know that he's there, he will come up usually to the boundary and he'll sing one of the shared songs. That means his neighbor can respond in a number of ways. One of the ways in which he can do it is we simply call repertoire matching, which is that he sings one of the other songs that he shares with a neighbor. Now, if you think about this for a minute, it's pretty bright, because the only way he can do this, in other words, he's not singing the same song, he's singing a different one, but he's picked out one of the ones that they share, which means for each neighbor, he needs to know what he shares with that neighbor. And for each of his 3 or 4 or 5 neighbors, it's going to be a different set of songs. If, on the other hand, he is mad at this guy, and this can happen for various reasons. This guy may have been intruding on his territory. He may be fooling around with his mate. Fooling around? We have a translation of that? Come on, we need a quick translation. Okay, just so you know, we've done studies on the genetics of the young born in the nest, and about 25% of the young in Dad's nest were not fathered by Dad. They were fathered by one of his neighbors. Okay, so the neighbors do compete with one another. And if, in fact, this guy has been doing something like that and he's mad, he's going to sing the same song back. That's a threat. That's the highest threat level you can give. If, on the other hand, there's a third possibility, and the third possibility is that he is busy and he doesn't want to interact with this guy. He's feeding young, for example, is a big time when they're doing that. When they're feeding young, they're terribly busy. The young are screaming for food, and they're finding food for them. And at this point in time, he just may say, I don't want to talk to you. And the way he does that is to sing an unshared song, and then he leaves and goes about whatever he was doing. So that's, this is a little more complex than simply saying the song is a keep-out signal, because what it shows is that, in fact, these birds use their songs in a fairly complex way to sort of, to escalate the interaction or to de-escalate the interaction, or simply to say, I hear you, I know who you are, and they have these three possibilities that they can do. So it's fairly complex the way in which they do this, and they can only do it if, in fact, they have these shared songs. That's the only way the system works. And that is probably one of the reasons that they learn the songs from the birds that are going to be their neighbors. Okay, so just to sum up, human language and birdsong are similar in these three fairly major ways. They're used for communication with other individuals, they're learned, and they have specialized parts of the brain that do just that, just handle the communication system. And the other part is the learning is really critical to the social context. In the same way that if you took a human child and isolated them from people and just played them recorded language, recordings of people talking, I don't think, no one's done this fortunately, but if you did this, I don't think they would learn anything at all. I don't think they would learn the language for sure. And it's very similar in birds. That is, they need to learn this in the social context because it's used in the social context. On that, I think I'll skip over this. This is just an example of one of the benefits of the importance of birdsong to neurobiology that we get. This is an article that ran in the Seattle Times a couple of years ago. And it was all, ostensibly it was about what the bird brains teach us about, about our own brain. But really, the main thing in the article was these experiments that I just described, which are a lot of fun and interest people and even can wind up on the front page of the paper. I didn't wind up on the front page. There was a picture of the bird on the front page. As with all things, there are many people that contribute to this research. So mostly these are my students. These are some of the students that did a lot of the work. And we do a little bit of song research when we're off the job as well. And needless to say, I need to thank at least the National Science Foundation and University of Washington for supporting this work. So thank you very much.